Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone in the US and Canada, I guess, had a lovely Labor Day bank holiday. And here we are in September. Unbelievable. Thanks for tuning in this morning for insights from the Center for Food Integrity as we connect the dots, as we do every month with Dr. Food. I'm Mickey French. I am the executive director, and this is our fastest 15 minutes in food. As you know, CFI's mission is to help the food system build consumer trust. And we do that from a number of different opportunities for members and public webinars like this one. So please join us at foodintegrity.org if you'd like to learn more. So as part of our insights and research, we gather insights from experts, and monthly we do our webinar here with Dr. David Hughes, who has 4 decades of food chain experience and has been a great partner for us as we learn about what's happening outside the US. In fact, last week he made us jealous by calling in from Barbados to prepare for this this call this morning, and now I hear he's off to Australia and Kuala Lumpur again. So as usual, welcome, David.
Great to be with you. Yes, I had a lovely week in Barbados. I used to live there, Mickey, and it was beautiful then, and it's still lovely. Actually, it's lovely here today. I'm in Wales, and it's 85 degrees today, which is high for us in September.
Yeah, warmer there than it is in Chicago at 64. We dropped 30 degrees overnight. So welcome to early fall in the Midwest. Today, some of the things that David and I discussed were really these unsettling tensions within the food chain. We're happy to be live this morning, and we the last couple we've needed to record due to travel on my side and David's side. So please put questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll try to save a few minutes at the end to answer those. So the first topic that we'd like to discuss is really that tension between doing what's right for the planet and climate and the cost that is still hanging over consumers globally, but again, more in the UK than in the US. So talk to us about that tension, David.
Right, and it's like a record. We're still W in terms of food price inflation and general inflation. We're at about 7% general inflation. You guys are down to 3%, but things are coming down. We're just a little slow about it. And yes, for my man, there are those clear tensions as government really struggles to tackle the big issues of the decade, as you said, cost of living crisis, climate change, and human health. And our national government won't take actions that put any pressure on food prices because they think that's the most significant, and we've got an election coming up next year. Even if they've got initiatives in place that would be good for the environment or good for consumers' health. And what intrigues me is that at the second level of government, this is at, say, the city level, cities are saying, look, we've just got to get on with it to protect the climate. So we're going to do our own thing. And my first example really is in London, in our capital, where if you went back into 2019, the Mayor of London initiated an emissions tariff for central London for traffic, so that as we spew out carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide from our cars, it's we're going to charge you for that. But it was only for central London, into the, if you will, the high income part. But now he's extended that. He refers to it. It's much hated as the ultra low emission zone, and now that's all of London. So what does that mean? It means that if you drive an older car, let's say an older diesel car, something more than 6 years old, incidentally, that's my car, then you're charged $16 a day to be on the road anywhere in London. And it's sort of interesting politically, because who has the older cars? Well, poorer folk have the older cars. But then the mayor is saying, but look, this action improves the health of the city, it helps our environment, and it helps the health of our residents. So, who does it affect? Well, actually, there's 700,000 vehicles daily have to, if they're on the road, and most people have the car, they'll have it on the road sometime, they have to pay this daily, $16 daily fee.
Wow.
So, it's a real tension at the moment. It's become like a political hotbed.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, that those economic disparities just get bigger with programs like that. But again, it's how do you balance that?
Yeah.
So the second topic we talked about was between sort of food waste and retail advertising, and that tension of how do we improve health with better diets and still keep food affordable. So let's talk about those pressure points when it comes to food waste and retail advertising specifically.
Right. Let's all remember that if we went back to 2000 and what it was 15, we, the UK, we also the US, Canada, signed up to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 12.3. This was in 2015, where we promised that we would halve per capita global food waste by 2030. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that we're halfway there in terms of time in 2023, and we're nowhere near halfway reaching the goal of reducing food waste. Now, bigger companies back in 2015, certainly in the UK, the Coca-Colas, the Unilevers of this world, etc., they got to work reducing their own waste, reporting it, putting it in their annual reports, etc. And the government at the time was saying, what's more, we in the UK are going to mandate that every food firm has to report annually its food waste and show the program for its reduction. Well, the fact of the matter is, because of lobbying from smaller food companies, particularly, who said, hey, that's just going to add cost to us, the UK government has now backed off that and essentially said, look, we won't mandate that you have to measure and report on your food waste, which seems to lose all the point, because if you don't measure it, then how on earth do you know how you're doing, and how can we show anywhere that we're getting near halving waste? So that's. And then moving on from that, I've mentioned before too that the government also, the UK government, has backed off on all the initiatives to try and constrain the sale of HFSS, high fat, salt, sugar products. They got this sort of big deal that it was going to be no end of aisle promotions. There was going to be no bog offs, buy one, get one free. And they now take the view that, well, actually, that's unfair, again, for poorer folk, because they're the ones that really take advantage of the bog offs, etc. But again, the big cities, actually, some of the small cities too, have said, look, we've just got to get on with this. So 8 cities and boroughs within London have introduced their own bans, so-called bans on junk food promotion. And so on any product that seems to have or has is high on high fat, sugar and salt, etc. I mean, an example would be Luton. You won't know Luton, but it's 30 miles north of London. It's a city in itself. And they were looking at that 45% of their year 6 pupils, that's kids who are 10 to 11 year old, are formally overweight, stroke obese. That's 45%. That's close to half. And they said, look, we've just got to get on with it. And they base their argument on research that's already been shown to work in the centre of London, where Transport for London, for example, removed all junk food advertising for anything on the underground, our subways, on the buses, trains, etc. And their research shows that it has had an impact in terms of reducing purchases of HFSS products. And also, I'm not sure if I believe this, but saying that 1,000 calories per week has been knocked off their citizens' diets. So they said there's good reason for us to do this. But, let's see.
Right.
And actually, it relates here, Mickey, to I'm sure it's the same in the US. At the moment, there's huge discussions about so-called ultra-processed foods. So it always amuses me darkly that it now has its own acronym, UPFs, ultra-processed foods. And in the UK, we're number one we like to be top of the league, but not top of the league of consumers of ultra processed foods. And 57% of the UK diet apparently is for ultra processed foods. So with the tops in Europe, yeah. And I was intrigued to see that there was last month there was a meta survey of a global survey of 325,000 consumers around the world, and it was presented at the European Society of Cardiology Congress in Amsterdam, and concluding that if you are high consumers of UPF, of ultra-processed foods, then it was a 24% chance increase of you having heart attack or a stroke. So again, it's going back to these real tensions that we that we see, and how do you manage it?
It's truly a balancing act, right? A lot of different areas. So I would say an age-old question, but a very hot topic right now deals with the real cost of food production in climate-friendly ways, and are consumers ready to pay for it? So we've done a number of pieces of research and partnered on research with organizations who talk about climate-friendly production methods, and consumers say they will pay. But will they really? So it sounds like there's an interesting case study in Germany at Penny. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so yes, Germany. Penny is a hard discounter, like Aldi and Lidl in the USA. Actually, Penny is owned by Rewe, which is one of the biggest. It's sort of Germany's Kroger, and it started a real cost campaign across all its stores, 2,500 stores, and it picked 30 key items and priced them, as you said, to reflect the real cost in relation to impact on soil, water use, the environment, etc. So, for example, they raised prices on wieners, on hot dogs by 90%. Mozzarella cheese was up by 70%. Yogurt, for example, by 31%. And then they just wanted to see what was the consumer response. And then did a full set of interviews with customers. And I was, again, rather darkly amused that shopper Helga, for example, said, "I'm pleased you're doing it. But I'll just see how expensive it is before I actually go out and buy it." And so, people, they seem to agree in principle at the moment. Yes, that reflects some sort of reality for the future about the health of our environment. But at the moment, I'm under so much pressure, I'm actually going to go out and just buy the cheapest I can find. And actually, Penny aren't alone. I noticed on animal welfare that Lidl, which is the largest discounter in Germany overall, is doing a sort of similar sort of approach, actually, but not until the end of next year, where they're sort of putting animal welfare as their priority, and they're moving up several notches in terms of animal, and they're saying, we will not sell cheap meat. So again, it'll be interesting to see how consumers respond.
Certainly. Let's see, it looks like we have one question in the chat here. And please, just a reminder, if you have a question for David, please type it in the chat now. The first question is, how are the UK and EU food trends and policies aligning now?
Okay, I guess are they aligning? The big policy in the EU is the so-called EU Green Deal. And if I pick up the biggest item of that, which is saying by 2030, which is just around the corner, that 30% of agriculture in the EU will be organic. A, they won't get there, and B, the UK has no interest in that. But in general, the ag and food policies are becoming increasingly green, notwithstanding what I've already said, that in the UK, we are holding back taking the difficult steps now because of political concerns and genuine economic concerns about the high price of food.
Yeah. Great. Another question, would the cost increases be similar for organic market in relation to the increases in prices you just discussed?
In Germany, the items they chose were not organic, but it's a sort of interesting, we haven't got much time, but I was talking yesterday at a chicken conference, and saying, that the problem is that you can become more environmentally friendly, you can become more animal welfare friendly, and for example, extend the time that you keep birds before you kill them, before you kill the chicken, and that's good for animal welfare, chick. But actually, it's poor for the environment because you just use more carbon producing the chicken because it takes more weeks to produce. So it's sort of complex, and there are genuine trade-offs. It's not easy. And it's not going to be easy going forward.
Right. Agree. So with so many serious topics, we'd like to end with something different or unique to those of us not in the UK. David, tell us about what special day happens on August 12th.
August the 12th. August the 12th. In the UK, it's known as the Glorious 12th. And so back in 1831, Queen Victoria's time, the new legislation came in which allowed the aristocracy to shoot game birds and deer actually between August and December. Before that, it was actually banned. And so it came in on August the 12th. So it's hugely celebrating. It's the start of the shooting season for red grouse, as we call it. Actually, you sometimes call it ruffed grouse, or sometimes incorrectly call them partridge. Well, is it a big deal? Well, in Scotland, 15% of Scotland is grouseland, is moorland. It's largely heather, and actually it has economic use. It's groomed by gamekeepers to provide heather and food for the birds. And also to control predators like weasels, for example. And every season, 500,000 birds, grouse are killed. It's sort of redolent for me because as a teenager, just like my mates, I used to get I lived on the Scottish border, and I would get pocket money from being a grouse beater. That meant that I'd be up on the moors and we'd be out there in a big long line, and we'd bash the heather to make a little bit of a noise, and that drove the birds in the air and drove them in a direction of the bats, as we call them, which is where the guns were. Now, unfortunately, the guns normally were held, these are big double-barreled shotguns held by normally older, richer aristocrats who'd had a damn good lunch and not without alcohol, and they could sort of shoot away at the birds. We just had to be on our best because sometimes they could be wayward in their shooting. We had to keep our heads down, I tell you. But it made good pocket money for me and my friends, and we normally got the remains of the lunch too. So that's August the 12th, the glorious 12th.
Fantastic. Another celebration I was unaware of. So we are over time this morning. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for joining us today. Hope to see you on October 5th for our next session. And remember, visit foodintegrity.org for more information about us and our upcoming Transparency Summit. So David, thank you again.
Cheerio. Lovely to talk.
In a few weeks.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.